Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. I want to welcome you to tonight's Bible study. I am your spiritual thought leader, Regina L. Stillman, and I appreciate you for joining me on this fine day. Listen, I tell you, it's another day's journey, and I'm glad about it. I am so happy to see One Reason, the Bishop of Twitch, is in the room tonight. God bless you, sir, and blessings upon blessings, and peace be multiplied. Cassandra Isaiah is in the room. Come on in, sis. Nothing but mad love to you, and thank you for coming in this evening. As well as truck driver, that's my Mufasa. That's my brother and my friend. It's good to see you in the room this evening. Blessings upon blessings to each of you that may not be in my chat, but you are watching and observing, and even for those that will come on demand and watch it later on. If you're wanting to travel from Genesis to Revelations, those 66 books, and we're doing it in chronological order, this is the place that you want to be. Every evening at 6 o'clock p.m., we are covering the Word of God. Now, I don't do a lot of preliminary talk. We just jump right in and go for what we know. I'm going to share my screen for those that want to look and see what it is that we're covering on tonight. We are looking as they are continuing to divide up the land of Canaan amongst the children of Israel. So tonight's reading, you should have done Joshua 13, and you should go through, let's see, Joshua 14, 15. Then there's some Judges 120, First Chronicles 6:56, Leviticus 25:4. All of that. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me get in today's reading. Judah's portion. I'm sorry. Joshua 15. I'm sorry. We did. I looked at that and I thought we did that yesterday. We did. Joshua 15. And you should have read through the 18th chapter on today's reading. All right. So today we're looking at Judah's portion. And again, we're just dividing up, divvying up the lands to the children of Israel. Then we'll look at Joseph's portion, which goes to Ephraim and Manasseh, goes to the sons, half of it to the sons, along with Ephraim. Joshua 16 verses 1 through 10, and then Joshua 17 verses 1 through 18. I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the tabernacle at Shiloh, Joshua 18 and 1, and then the remaining tribes take you Joshua 18. That will give you the rest of the divisions that will be done at that time. All right. So I'm not going to spend as much time on each of the tribes as they get land. And interestingly enough, as I said, the sons of Joseph actually are the ones that get division of land, and that is the way they did that. And Manasseh got half of that portion. So let's look at Shiloh. Shiloh, my goodness, there are churches all across the country named Shiloh, and I don't know if we really know what all Shiloh really entails and what Shiloh was about. Shiloh is actually one of the first prophetics of the Messiah. And I want to get that scripture for you if I can. I want to say it's Genesis. Where is that? Genesis 49:10. Genesis 49:10. Let me get back on the screen here. Genesis 49 and 10. And it begins to talk about when Shiloh comes, and there is a healing, and there's a joy and an excitement waiting on Shiloh. Now, the thing about Shiloh, we're going to find tonight, let me go, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the 18th chapter, I think is where I want to start this at on this evening. Joshua 18, yes. And the first verse. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there. And the land was subdued before them. Now, this is what I want you to note about Shiloh. Shiloh was not only where they set up the tabernacle, which is tremendously significant because we know their worship and their worship experience in the tabernacle was very, very critical to the children of Israel in all that they did and all that as they moved forward. Their worship was key. Their worship was preeminent over everything else. So to have Shiloh, the place where they set up the tabernacle, was significant. Now, we find that Shiloh is also a military camp for them as well. So we have the spiritual element that's going on here, but we also have, this is where we're also sending out as a headquarters for their military operations from Shiloh as well. So Shiloh pretty much covers everything about their lives as their significant things as they're moving into their promise. So as we talk about the Shiloh and the idea of the messianic prophecy and the prophetic that begins to come forth about until Shiloh comes, we get this whole sense of, and let me go ahead, I didn't pull it up, but let me get Genesis 49 and 10 and just go ahead and read that for you. Let me put that in real quickly. Genesis 49 verse 10. Let me just read that for you, if I may. This scepter will not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from his feet, until he whom it belongs to shall come. Let me get that in full. And the obedience of the nation shall be his. And let me go back and pick up, that's the NIV. It doesn't have the direct reference there in the NIV. I do want to get the meaning is when Shiloh comes, there is in this verse, he shall unto him shall the obedience of the people be, referencing to Shiloh, which was spoken previously about the coming of the Messiah. But Genesis 49:10 is where we get this concept of the prophetic, where Jesus is almost equated to or called Shiloh, the reference to Shiloh there also being a reference to the Messiah. Now, even as that, we look at that particular concept. I don't know if you all remember, there was an old song. We talk about scepter, that's dealing with rulership, that's talking about authority, that's talking about kingdom. So this is the promise that they have. Now, when we think back, one of the songs that comes to mind, I don't know if you all remember this song. This may be well beyond you all's years. But back in the day, they used to sing a song that said, he's a battle axe in the time. Does anybody remember that? He's a battle axe. I may have really reached way too far back for some of y'all. But there was that reference when we talked about Jesus as the battle axe, Jesus as the not only the Messiah and the soon coming king, but they also gave him that reference of power in his generalship, in his authority in war and in conquering. And of course, obviously, he's going to conquer the last enemy to be conquered, is death. And no, I didn't get any responses to that. So you know that song, Truck Driver. I was getting ready to say, I must have went way too far back. I must have gone way too far back. But a lot of that is reference. Your grandma's church sang it for testimony service. Come on, stay lifted. Y'all know what I'm talking. You remember that, Cassandra? Okay, I got a few that recall that. So this is a direct reference to that whole element of Jesus as the Messiah. But he's the conqueror. He is the conqueror. He is the captain of the army. He is the captain of the host. And so they had that peace. They had that joy. They had that assurance that when they went to battle, Jesus went before them. And not only did Jesus go before them, he was the battle axe. He was it. He was the weapon. Listen, like when we dropped the atomic bomb and everybody was concerned, they didn't have that weapon in their arsenal and the scramble began. This is the way we look at Jesus when we identify and associate him. And the scepter absolutely relates to the whole idea that he has the kingship. But again, don't forget that we find that Shiloh was twofold. It was not only the tabernacle, it was also the military headquarters. It was the military camp, and it was where the intel and the information came from. Now, that's a beautiful marriage right there, because the idea, if you're hearing from God in the tabernacle, you have some direction to go in your military. So even as you begin to go out and launch out in faith and believe God to move forward, Symbolically, I want you to take this same concept, this same idea that Shiloh, and again, Shiloh, I want to say 300 and some odd years. Let me go back and 369 years. Shiloh served the religious and the military campground for 369 years. That's a long time. So predominantly during the time of the judges, when you all read, they used to say those three books of the Bible that are together, what makes a sentence? Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Okay, so I'm really reaching back there, but that sentence you found, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, in the book of Judges, all of that you see taking place, much of the activity is taken from the headquarters of Shiloh. Shiloh was very, very significant. Had to Google it to hear how it goes. I remember hearing that. Oh, yes, Shelly Thunder. Good evening to you. Yes, ma'am. I mean, they used to, back in the time, and shelter in the time of storm. He's a battle axe. I mean, and if you stop and think about it, these are some of the old songs that came from way back when. Come on here, Flirt. I'm trying to tell you. These are songs that came from way back when, that, even if you listen to that song, Shelly, if you listen to that song and the way it's put together, it has almost that African harmonizing to it. It has that all the way, but and don't let them get to stomp. Don't get to stomp in there. And I mean to tell you, when they would go in on "He's a Battle Axe," honey, the saints went in. But there was something about that knowledge that when I need someone to fight, Jesus fights for me. He's my battle axe. And so at the end of the day, there was great joy. And even though it had a lot of the, come on, Shelly Thunder, I'm telling you, I'm getting goosebumps even while I'm talking about it. Because it wasn't one that had the music to it, because there was no courting to be done, because in actuality, it is that almost from the motherland kind of harmony. So it's very, very complicated and difficult. It's not a song you're gonna sit down and chord. Your music is literally the stomping of the feet and the moaning of the people singing that song. And you talk about soul stirring. It absolutely, positively was and is. There are songs. Those are the songs that got us over, Truck Driver. Come on here. These are some songs that got us over before we got as what I want to say, maybe as cultured in the way we put our songs and our harmonies together and so on and so forth. But this is one of those songs that is very, very reminiscent all the way back again to our origins from Africa. Still very powerful. And the concept of it, even though you had a lot of times where the majority of the Black population could not read, they may have been illiterate because they were not allowed to read, and reading was not something that a large scale of them did. You did have those that had the ability to read and interpret, and then you begin to think how they came out with these songs. Possibly a preacher got up and began to preach about Shiloh, because Shiloh, listen, you could, and if you think about it, I don't know about your city, but I know here there were, back in the day, you don't see it as much anymore, there were churches all over speckled with the name Shiloh, because Shiloh was significant. And so I wanted to pull that out. The days when a praise dance shout wasn't triggered by a strike of a chord, Shelly Thunder. Come on, you talking to me in here. But the moving of your spirit, I mean, by the time they got finished singing that, I'm telling you, and I'm not joking, just from the memory of singing, of remembering how those old saints used to sing that song, and it was almost there was such determination with it, but there still had almost a moan and a travailing, but there was a knowing, there was an assurance. It was just all of that wrapped up in one, and if you just stop and think about it, he's my battle axe. Oh my God. So, and a shelter in the time of storm. Whew, there's comfort in that. There's joy in that. There's anticipation and expectation in that. There's all of that mixed up in there, all in one. So I definitely wanted us to have a clear understanding. I want to just pull out, and I'm not going to necessarily try to speak impromptu. I want to go back, and there's some things that I think are good. You can possibly take some notes. I jotted down here and pulled out. So Shiloh was an ancient religious center of Israel. It was located about 10 miles north of Bethel. Now, if you stop and think about this, you got Shiloh and Bethel within 10 miles of each other, because Bethel was a spiritual powerhouse in and of itself. So if you really stop and pay attention to how the children of Israel structured and divided themselves, you didn't have to look. You could definitely find spiritual strongholds, spiritual setups where very, very powerful and significant events occurred. So again, you got Bethel, that house of God, that place of worship. You got Shiloh, that's not only the place where they set up the tabernacle for 369 years. And I do want to emphasize that that is a long time. That's a long time to serve in that capacity during the time that the children of Israel are coming into there and have settled now, because we've already divided up. That's basically what happened last night in our reading, and then they finished it out today, dividing those tribes up to the 12 tribes of Israel. And remember, we talked on yesterday, because Caleb got his portion because he, as he said, I wholly followed after the word of God. He didn't waver. He did not falter. He came back, and Joshua came back. The two of them came back with a good report, while, as he said, and the other 10 spies came back with the evil report that melted the people's hearts. So for that, he was recorded. For that, he was able to get the blessing of his portion as well. And we read on yesterday where he reminded 45 years, y'all, that's a long time. 45 years from the time that he and Caleb went over and the time that Moses spoke to him and made the promise that you will be given a portion. And as he said, at 85 years old, this was promised to me 45 years ago, and I want my mountain. So, it doesn't matter how long it takes. And I know many, many times we can become very, very disillusioned when time seems like it just keeps on going, just keeps on going. It just keeps on going. And as he said, his physical was not abated. His energy, his steps, his vision, everything was just as it was on the day that he received that promise from Moses. And I was encouraging on yesterday, I want us to have, whether it's spiritually, whether it is emotionally, whether it is figuratively, don't let your steps fail. Don't begin to slow down. Don't start to lose hope. Don't start to find yourself fatigued and overwhelmed and disillusioned. If it takes 45 years, if God has promised it to you, he's going to give it to you. I see you all talking. Let me come back. I'm going to check some of these comments out, because I know I'm just running at the mouth here. Flirt, come on. We laying it down tonight. We laying it down. When the Father, the Son, or the Holy Ghost present themselves, they become the majority all by themselves. You better talk to me, Cassandra. I'm looking. Stay lifted. You said your grandma's church sang it for testimony service. Listen, now tell me this, Stay Lifted. In all honesty. Now, you don't have to answer, and I am kind of putting you on the spot, but did you feel something when they sang that song? As old and as, I'm almost say old-timey slavery oriented as it may have had, and when I say slavery, it wasn't a song of bondage, but I'm saying it definitely was that time. You did? I'm just saying. We felt something when they sang that song. We felt something when they stomped their feet. We felt something when, to tell you, it was just, and we didn't have, instruments like we have today. Y'all, I'm really getting ready to reach back because some of y'all not going to remember this either. But we had an old preacher that sat over in the corner, and he had a washboard. He had a washboard and a spoon. And baby, it was, like I said, there was no music to it. Stomping on that wood floor. We stomped so, and my dad and them used to laugh, but they said we come out looking like dust babies. Because when we stomped on the floor, the dust would come up out of the floor. I don't know if you all remember, between the floor, a lot of the caulking would almost turn to chalk in those old buildings. So when you were just fixing to say that, truck driver, that caulking had turned to dust down in the grooves of the wooden boards put together, and the more we stomped, the more the dust came up, and baby, we came out looking like dust bunnies. But when it was set, the color purple church scene vibes all day long, Shelly Thunder. But we had some church. You hear me? We had some church. Now that's when you remember. You might have, and if it was wintertime, you come on, y'all done took me back. You went to a church with the blind mother who played the washboard with the spoon. I'm telling y'all, this is how we had church back in the day. You'd have that stove over in the corner if it was wintertime. And then you had the saints sitting on the pews, and these were not the beautiful pews. We made our pews. Listen, my uncle them, my great uncle rather, my grandfather them, they made these pews. And I'm here to tell you, I said, listen, you thought somebody was getting the Holy Ghost, one of them splinters had caught them out of that pew, baby. But at the end of the day, we had some church. You better ask somebody, and they get that, listen, they get to stomping on that floor, and they get to scraping that washboard, and oh my God, I'm telling you, it was something. it was something. But it was the whole element of what they were saying. It stirred our souls because it came from our souls. Listen, Kirk Stomp can't touch that. Not at all. What I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, I'm telling you, but it was also the way that they sang it. Because it was almost like, y'all, if can't nobody else help us, if can't nobody else save us, if can't nobody else deliver us, when it seems like everything is coming against us and it looks like we're not going to win, he's a battle axe. Oh, hey, he's a battle axe. Oh, my. And if you just really let that get down in your shando from Shiloh, oh, my God, it'll do something for you. It'll do something for you. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the environment. And I love that last line. Singing from deep inside, KB Browns. Singing from deep inside. Because, listen, they didn't have anything else to hang on to. They didn't have anything else to get happy about. Listen, the situations and the times and the ways that they had to make provision and just believe and trust God for everything. This is that thing where you get, again, Shiloh, where the tabernacle actually meets with your military, and you pull that together and you're able to reach all the way deep down inside and say, he's a battle axe. After you've had that experience with God, we can win the fight because we have the battle axe who wins every fight. That's what I'm talking about, Shelly Thunder. And he cannot lose. It's almost like what Reverend Ike say. You can't lose with the stuff I use. When you know in the midst of those struggles, they made those songs, KB Browns, based on this scripture, and they would come out and they would have such a conviction, such a determination, such something down from deep. You could not take that away from them, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what tries to pull me down. It doesn't matter how the oppression tries to take me out. He's a battle axe. Oh my God. I got happy over that song. Woo! And I feel something stirring. And as we get into this place of understanding, isn't it interesting that in this time, in this season, we're almost all the way back to that? And this is why I want us to have and take away this idea. Shiloh. Come on, Shiloh. Some folks started making it up for a tongue, but it's actually, I'm going to speak in the tongue. Shiloh. But listen, at the end of the day, Shiloh was a location where God had set up the tabernacle and their military base at that one location. And I want you all to understand the power of that, the enormity of that, and take away that idea of how God will provide cover for you. God will provide protection for you. God will provide military, whatever your battle is. Whatever the battle is. We used to sing, and if I hold my peace and let the Lord fight my battle, victory, victory shall be mine. Why? Because he's a battle axe. Am I talking to anybody in here? I done retch way back tonight, children. But at the end of the day, I want you to understand the concept. Praise is a definite weapon. Come on here, Cassandra. I want you to understand the concept of where they were drawing. For those who never, thank you, Shelly. Thank you, Shelly. For those who never heard the song, she put up a link for you. But I'm telling you what, it's powerful. The song is powerful. Now, at the end of the day, as we look at Shiloh and we understand the significance that it had to the children of Israel, I want you to create and make your own Shiloh. You understand what I'm saying? I want you to make your own Shiloh. After the Israelites entered into the promised land, the tabernacle where the Ark of the Covenant resided. All right. Now, they had different locations where they would have this and that and the other. But this was the place where the Ark of the Covenant resided. Now, the thing about the Ark of the Covenant, this was where the presence of God dwelled. This is where the presence of God was making and being in habitation at the Ark of the Covenant. So as we look at the significance of it, I want you to understand, you can't even get ready to go out to fight a battle. You can't give it, and really at the end of the day, let the Lord fight your battle. But even as God is sending you forth, as you know you've got the battle axe, if you can understand that before I make a move, I need to hear from God. Before I make one step, before I make one effort, and then whatever it is that God tells me to do, that's what I need to do. All right. This is my Shiloh. I want you to create and find a space of Shiloh. I want to not make a move until I have made a connection with the Spirit of God to give me a direction. I don't want to try to make an agenda and a platform until I've heard from the Lord. And once I hear a word from the Lord, we're ready to go. And many times what God is going to do is tell me how to position myself. Come on, listen to what I'm getting ready to say right here. A lot of times what the Lord is going to tell you how to position yourself to let the battle axe do the work. Can I say that one more time? Many times, if you entreat the Spirit of the Lord first, God is going to tell you how to position yourselves to let the battle axe work. And I promise you that the Lord, by the Spirit of Christ, is more than able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. And at the end of the day, all things are going to work together for your good. And no weapon that's formed against you shall prosper. I want to encourage you because, again, if you can get that down in your shando, in the midst of your struggle, in the midst of seeming like something's going to really take me out. I don't know if I can do this one this time. This one's awful tough. This one seems impossible. I want you to remember he's a battle axe. My God. And I want you to stop before you do anything. Don't allow your spirit to be overwhelmed. But I want you to entreat for the presence and the Spirit of God to take control. And I tell you, it will make all the difference in the world. So we look at it again, it's the religious and the military significance of the children of Israel. This location right here, Shiloh. And after the Israelites entered in, Shiloh served as their military capital. And I said this already, all the way through the time of the judges, for 369 years. Here we have, and it goes back, I'm just reading some of these notes, I think I've already done, but the messianic prophetic word that, listen, until Shiloh comes, the scepter shall not pass. Referring and again giving us a glimpse all the way back from Genesis. This is all the way back in Genesis. Now we're all the way forward in time to Joshua, and we're starting to see the manifestation now coming to pass. Then we have the destruction of Shiloh. The city of Shiloh was destroyed by the Philistines, and Jeremiah, this is going to be the time window, used the destruction of Shiloh as a warning to Judah about the consequences for sin. So here we see it as a military base and a spiritual base. And the only thing that had the ability to tear it down was their disobedience. The only thing, hear me, that had the power to bring Shiloh down was their disobedience. And so I want us with that to come into a place, and I want to do this because I did put this in. They found archaeological evidence of Shiloh and the destruction of Shiloh that dated back to the middle of the 11th century BCE. And so Shiloh is currently Kerbet. Now, at the end of the day, I wanted to emphasize the information on Shiloh today because, again, it was reminiscent for me of days gone by when Shiloh was something that we talked about. Shiloh was a common name of churches. Shiloh had a whole different energy. Shiloh and the understanding of Shiloh as a military and a spiritual headquarters was so significant to the children of Israel. And in years past, you could regularly hear songs and or preaching about Shiloh. I just wanted to, and maybe this was my step back in an opportunity to stroll down memory lane, but there was so much power. There was so much we've moved away, and I'm not trying to knock anything about where we're going with our preaching texts and so on and so forth. But in a lot of ways, I feel like some of these passages that are so powerful and they're so significant, I feel like in a lot of ways we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater because we don't pull from these types of texts that give us this kind of knowledge and information. And again, you can just sit down if you want to on your own, sit down and begin to do some additional study and understand the significance that Shiloh had to and for the children of Israel. And just let it speak to you. Let it minister to you. Let it, whatever reveals itself in that course of study, I guess I want to say, bring back some of these significant locations that used to be preached on heavily back in the day, but now somebody may have never even heard of Shiloh, for all I know. It's just not anything that we talk about or preach about anymore. And the prophetic utterance and the connection that it has all the way back to Genesis, the 49th chapter. And then how we come generations later and we start seeing the fulfillment of the prophecy. And then, of course, Jesus becomes the ultimate fulfillment of that. And those, you can find those pieces of information out there if you do some searching. It's not hard because Shiloh, as I said, was a very significant location that used to be heavily taught on. I don't know that they do that much. Let me ask, how many of you in your time, I'm not even going to say within your particular ministries, have had or heard teachings on Shiloh? Is that something that they're still teaching and I just don't realize it? I haven't heard personally. I haven't been anywhere and recently or in, I'll even say decades.
Thank you for the sub. We're building something.
Tom Pumps is is pumping tall. Hood evening, and thank you for that resub. Not many, okay, because it's just not a text that I hear preached on. You know, it's almost like we go through trends of text. And thank you for that resub, Tall Pumps, because we're building something. It's been a while. I just don't hear a lot of that anymore. I almost have to reach back to, you have not heard, I almost have to reach back to my childhood to hear a lot of heavy conversation and teaching on Shiloh. It's just not popular anymore. But at the end of the day, it's not about what's popular. I'm so glad even about doing none. I hear you, Cassandra. I enjoy. I don't even recall if I've heard it as a kid in Sunday school. Come on, Shelly Thunder. You know, and this is the beauty of this Bible study. We've pulled out a few things. You know, we've pulled out a few things that some have said they've never ever heard in the entirety of their lives, some of these stories and some of these teachings. This is why it's good to go back and just frequent and acquaint yourself with the different scriptures. And even if it's something from, for me tonight, tonight's passage, and yes, I could have gone to the divvying up of the lands, but at the end of the day, each of the 12 tribes and some others got some land. Okay, that's all fine and good. I got excited about Shiloh because it took me back to my childhood. And so thank you for letting me, enduring me in my folly, as one of the old mothers would say. But again, I just wanted to have an opportunity to reflect back, and pull this little gem of a nugget out, or a nugget of a gem, whichever way that should be, out, and focus on it for a minute, because Shiloh was so significant. 369 years, the Ark of the Covenant was housed there. 369 years. We used it, we saw them as a military base. So very, very significant, very powerful. So I just wanted to pull that out. They sure know how to teach on Nehemiah and his project with for the building fund. Listen, Nehemiah and Malachi will never, they will never go out of style, you know, because they're going to always preach to you about building when they need the building fund. And they're going to always tell you about tithes and offering. Will a man rob God? So those obscure prophets will never, those books will never go out of style, because they'll always pull those scriptures out. But then here's some power-packed stories, some power-packed information about let me time myself out. The building fund scriptures, KB Browns, the building fund scriptures. So, but these are some power, and the love offering. Shelly, see what you done started. Goodness, listen, I'm telling you, but at the end of the day, I just want us to understand there's some powerful stuff in here. Shiloh is power packed. Shiloh. Don't ban yourself. Don't ban yourself. I love it. Shiloh. Hey, you can. That's almost a good way. Like I said, honey, some folks can't get another tongue, so they just Shiloh. Listen. So whatever way you got to get it in, I'm not mad. But I love the opportunity. I love that you all let me digress on tonight. I hope that what I've said has given you something to kind of reflect on. It is, if you go back and you want to read it, that 18th chapter of Joshua, I believe it is. Yes, Joshua 18. And the tabernacle and so on and so forth. And there's even more. It's scattered. It's really speckled, actually. So you'd want to go back and read not just Joshua, but other places as well. But just put it in as a word study. You know, Google Shiloh and see what all comes up with it. Thank you, Shelly Thunder, Joshua 18. And I promise you, if you really Google it and get an understanding of how significant Shiloh was, it'll bless you. All right. I think I've said enough for tonight because I'm telling you, I'm still pumped up and fired up about singing and hearing He's a Battle Axe. You know, if I thought I could play it without getting some kind of strike on me, Shelly Thunder, I'd roll that beautiful beam footage and let it play. But for those that haven't heard it before, Shelly Thunder did put it in the chat. Now, some of y'all gonna hear that and be like, what? What is she talking about? I didn't get nothing out of that song. I didn't get nothing. And you know what? If you didn't get anything out of it, that's okay too. I think for me, in addition to understanding the power of the scripture, who's never heard, thank you so much for that, Shelly. If you've never heard the song, she pinned it up there for you. You can go out there and listen to it. But not only understanding the spiritual significance excited me, but remembering how those old folks sang it with such, oh my God, they sang that song with it came from somewhere deep down. It came from somewhere deep down. That it just, that by itself would almost transform you. It really would. And I'm still, I start talking about it again, Shelly, got goosebumps again, because I can hear the old saints singing that song. I can hear the old saints singing that song in church. And it just almost makes the hair stand up on the back of your head. All right. I'm going to come up and say good evening to everybody. And again, Tall Pumps, thank you for that resub. Tall Pumps is pumping tall. And good evening to you. I miss you, my friend. It's so good to have you in the Lion's Den on tonight. Well, we've had the beauty of Truck Driver in the room. One reason the Bishop of Twitch was in the room. Cassandra Isaiah is in the room. Yes, Shelly Thunder came in tonight in the room. Stay Lifted is in the room. Come on in here, sis. Nothing but mad love to you. Coming on down, and I'm seeing KB Browns, that's my brother, is in the room. And KB, I think you may have come in when I was in my He's a Battle Axe. Because listen, that thing took me somewhere. Flirt is in the room. So much love to you, sis. I love you, and it's good to see you in here. Coming on down and seeing who else is in the room tonight, because I don't want to miss anybody. And I always say, if I miss you, it's only because I overlooked it in my reading. I definitely do not intend to miss anyone because your presence here is so precious and important to me. I believe I got everybody. If I missed you, holler at me. Say something to me so I can know that I have overlooked you because I don't want to overlook anybody. Now, as we get ready to go out of here, I am appreciative once more and again to everybody that has come in tonight. I appreciate your time. The old deacon holding his hat and the mother clutching her purse singing. Not the mother clutching her purse, but they did. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get out of here. Somebody came to church and they after the service was over, they said, well, I guess the mother's pocketbooks got saved too. Because listen, we had kneeling prayers. Some of y'all don't know what that is, but we literally had an altar that was at the front of the church. And when we had prayer, everybody got up and went to the altar for prayer, and we kneeled at the altar and we prayed. And it wasn't no 5-minute prayer cheering. They prayed. But somebody came, one of my friends, and they said, well, I guess the mother's purses are saved because every last one of them, when they got up from their chair and from the pew and went to the altar, they took their purses with them. And as they kneeled on the altar, those purses were right there between their bosoms and their chin, tucked away where nobody was gonna get that purse, baby. Come on, Truck Driver, you know something about kneeling at the prayer. No trust in the fellow. Well, you know what, Dalen? I'm gonna tell you what. Let me tell you what happened. What had happened was, and this is a true story, and by the time I was, little, what had happened was the generation before me, which would have been that Vietnam generation, somebody had gotten turned on to the 7 herbs and spices, and it was reported to me that one of them babies on that stuff had lifted some money out of one of the mother's purses purses. And the mother said, this shall not happen again. And so those persons got saved every time they went to the altar. Because, baby, when they knelt at the altar to pray, the purse went with them. Our church mother said they got to watch as well. Come on. The Bible said watch as well as pray. Listen, they still in church too. Come on here, KB Browns. You better ask somebody. Now, we didn't have that before. And that was the thing that I will say, when they would tell that story about when one of the young men that was on that stuff had come in and lifted some money up out of the mother's purses. They always made a point that it didn't used to be that way. And I believe, that ultimately there is some significance to that. We saw things change as people, Dalen Jesus wept. Y'all silly. So, they made a point of pointing out that it was really a drug addiction situation that had come in. Because, even though we were in the country, we were out in the middle of no man's land. But listen, drugs are everywhere. And so once there was that infiltration where people were stealing to support their habits, the mother said, not here and not today. This person's going with me to the altar. So that's really where that today's den of thieves is the church. You're sure in the 80s didn't make it any easier. Listen, so, they still, listen, y'all come up. That's why Bishop's robe got... Y'all just done start cutting up. Y'all done start cutting up. Listen, I love y'all. And that's why I love you. I love you because we can come in and we can get a word from the Lord. There are thieves in the temple. One reason. So listen, Judas was a thief in something, KB Browns. Tall pumps, I'm telling y'all. The mother said, y'all ain't going to get me again. Not like that. That shall not happen again. The Bible said, watch. As well as pray. So that's the way that went. And so once we started having to protect our what we had from people that had, and it's unfortunate, I say that, but it's unfortunate that people were addicted, and I will say even my cousin's testimony that they took this little boy out of a town of at its height, the population was 276, and that's true, 276, and they were booming in that census. And take this little boy out of the country and drop him over someplace where, I don't know where I am, and they were feeding them, they were giving them drugs. So, and then bring them back and drop them off. They had habits that they didn't know what to do with, unfortunately. And that's very unfortunate. So I see both sides of it. And while I'm laughing, there was a sobering reality as to how they got that way, because they were not like that at first. They weren't always like that. They were not always like that. And so even in that, as we jest and as we joke, and it is funny though. But at the end of the day, it also speaks to how we create situations and needs in people's lives that they weren't like that before. So that always, I always get that flip side of the coin. And even though they were thieving in the church, they still needed prayer. All right. I love you guys. I absolutely positively do. And when y'all get on a humorous roll, y'all just take me out, because you all, each of you could be comedians in your own right, because y'all are funny. I just want you to know. I love you with the love of the Lord. I hope that Shiloh has done something for you on tonight. Remember, he's a battle axe in the time of war and shelter in the time of storm. He's a battle axe. I'm going to get up out of here. You are the class clown, KB Browns. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. That's my finals, baby. Come on. Shiloh, come on. Come on. I love you guys. It's time to get out of here. You try not to clown too much. Honey, keep on clowning, because that's my personality as well. I love people that clown, so you right up my alley. You my kind of guy. Now, listen, we're getting ready to get up out of here. I want you to have a great night, a great evening. See you back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. And you know how I like to leave up out of here. Peace for your journey.